by far one of the worst communities I've ever been a part of any gaming community. All you do in this community is finger point and argue on both sides of killer and survivor, right? Oh no, the game is trash because survivors is too easy for survivor, or no, the game is trash because it's too easy for killer. We all we do is argue in the community on Twitter, on Reddit, on Facebook posts as well too. You know, Facebook got their own group, but we never seem to just say, hey, you know what? For the sake of the game, for the sake of the DBD humanity, let's come together and let's just figure this out. The devs are doing their best. I know people say, oh, well, people don't like the devs don't play their games. The devs are trying to listen. That's why they're trying to come up with the quality of life. They're trying to fix the issue, which is, I don't know, the anti-camping, the slugging, right? The bleeding out. And I understand killers want to win their matches, but you literally have killers that will bleed out and dry home to prove a point. So this one's on y'all. This one's on y'all. Now there are people who, now mind you, it's just a PTB, keep that in mind, but there are people who cannot stand already the surrender option. So I'm just going to kind of read it a bit just so you can understand what's in the PTB. Mind you, this is just a PTB. You can have the surrender option as survivor and killer when all remaining survivors are bots. This is for the killer. The killer can surrender without a disconnect penalty. So when when there's nobody else in the match and everybody DCs, the killer can actually leave without penalty, without any type of, they get the blood points, they keep all that stuff, right? I think they just lose the match progression, if that makes sense. Another one is when no general has been completed for 10 consecutive minutes, the killer can surrender without disconnect penalty. And when all other remaining survivors are bots, the survivor can surrender without a disconnect penalty. When all survivors are in the dying state, the survivor can surrender without DC penalty or whatever. Now, here's the thing. I've watched Choi. I don't think I've watched anybody else's, but I actually liked his video. He's actually a pretty good content creator. His issue was that, okay, people can just so you can just pretty much, it's like DCing disconnect without penalty, but it's like, it's if you're in the dying state. So what is considered the dying state? Being carried off by the killer, that's considered the dying state. Being on the ground, obviously that's dying state. Being on the hook, that's dying state. And in his case, he was saying, well, it should be like a voting thing for survivor. Like, hey, do we want to do this match or not? As far as like us being on the ground and being slugged out. Because a lot of survivors do think the dying state is just being slugged out. They do think if you're just on the ground and the killer's just, not refuses to hook and just BMing and whatever. But it kind of takes away a chance of, first off, like the Mori. I think that it would take away killer's Mori if everybody can just DC, if everybody is on the ground and you have that option. But on top of that, it's like, okay, if you are on the ground, you can't use Unbreakable, okay? Because if we're all on the ground, you can just have that feature and leave. And that means I think the entire matches can end. I think everybody can leave that match. Don't quote me. You probably won't be able to use, like, I don't know, Soul Guard or whatever, any perk that you can get off the ground or even unhook, like Deli. You probably can't unhook yourself because you're in the dying state. So I understand that it's not perfect. It's kind of weird. It's a kind of a nuanced situation because a lot of us are like, you know what, we're just tired of being bled out. But I just want killers to just understand my point. Killers, I'm not talking about those who play the game to just try to win and try to get the game over with. I do not care. This is not a big deal to me. Why? Because I promise you, I don't care if I'm tunneled. I don't care if I'm camped. I don't care if I'm beat on hook. Just put me on the hook, man. Anybody who've ever watched my content, listen to my podcast episodes, that is my biggest issue, is killers bleeding me out or me just having to wait 10, 20 minutes. Obviously, it don't take that long to bleed out, but just to wait, just for you to find that last survivor. Because a 2K it's not a loss, it's a tie, but it's not a win. If you're an average killer, you get at least a 2K. If you somewhat decent killer, you get a 2 to 3K. So you don't lose at a 3K, you actually win. But no, you have to slug for the 4K. Y'all brought this upon yourselves, and I'm sorry, but they listen. I understand that people want to win their game and they're trying to find a balance between having fun and winning their games. But the game can't just be miserable. It can't just be miserable. It can't. And I think in one of the parts of the Choice video, he said that about the generator being not completed and whatever. I guess that probably means too that you'll have survivors that'll try to have the incentive to just hide all day, and then that way they'll try or rat out a teammate So that way the killer can just be like, you know what, I can't find that survivor. They still haven't fixed that pick up the item drop, which I'm surprised they haven't fixed that yet, but trust me, they will fix that. They will make it, because, you know, for those who do not know, you can actually, to prevent crows from, like, you know, alerting the killer where you are or anything like that, you can just pick up an item, drop it, pick it up an item. It's like a tech. That will be taken away at some point, trust me, because then people can just do that all day and then make the killer DC, because they can just hide all game, right? And they don't really care about having this. I mean, yeah, killer can have lethal pursuer, but I mean, that only works in the beginning of the game. Survivors can just hide in lockers, and then they can just keep picking up the item. And then if the generator isn't completed or touched at all, they'll just go ahead within the first 10 minutes, of course, or within 10 minutes, I believe. I don't know if it's in the first 10 minutes. The killer have a chance to DC. I think the devs are just trying to say, you know what? We're tired of, listen, killers. I know y'all go against bully squads. Okay? I know y'all go against sweaty survivors, even though you play sweaty yourself. But I promise you, I'm not mad at this. I'm not mad. Now, mind you, you do keep, I just want to be clear, I just want to make sure I read this correctly. It says, when surrendering calls you to leave the match, it will appear at the right of the screen. So anytime if you're a survivor and everybody's on the ground, you'll get that option to, consider if everybody's in a dying state. If you're on a hook as well, dying state, whatever, and you get the chance to leave, it will show on the screen, surrender will call you to leave the match, and it will says you will keep blood point emblems, and then it says, but you will also lose match progressions and your add-ons. So I just think, in my opinion, you know, all of this could have been avoided if, in my opinion, and I get it, for killers it's cut and dry. It's like, well, simply, you know, did you kill all the survivors? Did you get a 2K? Whatever. With survivors, hey, you know you're gonna be playing solo queue. It's a total nightmare. But killers, y'all brought this on yourselves, man. All that dry humping on the ground, all that dry humping back and forth. Gotta stand over my body. And then I don't know how that's gonna work with the in-game Mori. I don't know how that's gonna work. Because if I'm on the ground and you're trying to hurry up and get to everybody, we can just get up out of there. It would almost, it's not like the old hatch where the hatch appeared and stuff like that. But the fact that we can just leave and go to the next match. And killers, not just for survivors. Survivors, I mean, for killers can do that too. If you're in a match just full of bots, you have no reason to play and try to get juiced and crossed up by them bots because you cannot check them. You can leave. If somebody don't want to do the gen and they want to try to, you know, meme around, you can leave, because I'm sure for killer that's boring when survivors just want to meme around and just F around and not actually compete. So within closing, listen, man, it's not perfect. I gotta give devs some grace. They are trying, right? But I don't think it helps when all we do is bicker and fight and bitch and moan, when all we do is point the finger and say, no, the game survivor side, the game's killer side, all this stuff. I just think that the devs are in the weird place of trying to balance the game. It is an asymmetrical game. They're trying to figure out, okay, killers have to be had because it is the power role. It's called Dead by Daylight, not Survive by Midnight. You understand what I'm saying? They have to try to figure that out. And then you also have survivors. They know that survivors aren't supposed to escape all the time, because people wouldn't want to play the killer role, and then they couldn't sell their DLCs to people like, hey, we got Hellraiser, hey, we got, you know, like any other type of DLC character. Like, I don't even know who the new killer is. I don't watch anime like that. I don't think the issue with is the killer. I think it's just people, but with the surrender option, right? All we do is fight with each other in the community. We don't come together and try to say, hey, let's try to save the player base. Because it seems like there are people joining DBD, and there's a lot of newer players who don't know what they're doing, playing Sable. And then there are people who are like the OG players and veteran players, such as myself, that just leaves. I don't even play DBD like that unless it's like live streaming now, which I rarely even do at this point. So within closing, I want to make this too long. I just think that I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I already get, listen, I main solo queue. I got 8K hours. I'm telling you this right now. It's already enough irritating to play with somebody who's not going to do gens, and then you're going to complain when we want to go next, but then this same survivor's not doing gens. But killers, you can tunnel me, you can beat me on hook, you can do whatever you want to do. But I'm okay with this. Put me on the hook, man. That's all you have to do, is put me on the hook. So I'm not mad at it. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I'm going to get up out of here and do nothing because I ain't got nothing to do. I'm tired. But yeah, like, share, and comment your thoughts below about what you guys think about the new surrender option. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Stay safe out here. If nothing else, peace.